Hello and welcome again. In this segment, I want to talk about the goal of reconciliation that is attached to truth-seeking initiatives. And I want to try to formulate it in a way that puts the emphasis on some of the political problems involved in projects of reconciliation. So what is the basic hypothesis here? What is the basic motivation for preferring truth over justice? It's this. It is the contention that it is more important to achieve reconciliation at the social level than it is to punish perpetrators. That this would constitute a more lasting and more sustainable contribution to peace. And if we are going to accept that proposition, then we need to answer some questions. The first question that we need to ask is what is meant by reconciliation? And it might seem as though this is a question that is raised repeatedly, but we have a serious problem with the term reconciliation because it carries a lot of baggage with it. One part of baggage that it carries with it is right there in that first syllable, the re. That is, there is a supposition that there was a pre-existing state of harmony that can somehow be recaptured. This is not always the case. The conciliation part is also problematic because what the term reconciliation tends to do rhetorically is to put an equal sign in between perpetrators and victims, to look at them as sides opposed to one another. Many victims object to this very strongly because they say, I was never in conflict with anybody and therefore don't need to reconcile with anybody. Somebody did something to me. If there's a way to make peace between us, this probably puts the burden on the perpetrator rather than on the victim, but certainly does not put the burden on both of them equally. And then, if we put into practice reconciliation as it is problematically defined on the practical level, it often has some implications, and they're implications that we can see in political practice and in everyday activity. One of them is that a condition for reconciliation might be that the entire truth is not told. That is, that some stories are regarded as too touchy, as too sensitive, as too flammable to go out in public. So reconciliation might involve not so much telling the truth as hiding the truth, as imposing silence about some important elements of people's experience. A second thing that happens is that if reconciliation is postulated as a political goal, this means that actors will orient themselves toward it in a political manner, so that one of the instruments that is then available to a variety of political actors, and especially political actors that are successors of forces that committed violations, is to threaten to decline to provide reconciliation, to decline to offer apologies, to decline to accept them, to say any time that a gesture toward addressing grievances is made, this does not contribute to reconciliation. That is to say that once reconciliation is postulated as a goal, something that you will see in absolutely every environment is people who have never done anything in their lives to contribute to reconciliation, to criticize other people's efforts by saying that they do not contribute to reconciliation. Now, we've already mentioned this basic problem of the re in reconciliation, this postulate that there was a pre-existing condition that was desirable and that needs to be recaptured. I think it's enough to say that speaking historically, this is generally not the case. But what's covered up by saying that it is the case? I think what's often covered up is that when we look at instances of large-scale violence, they very often have their roots in systematic relations of inequality in the environment where the violence took place. So the systematic inequality is a part of the is a part of this postulated previously existing state that does not hold. So what reconciliation often means is a refusal to address root causes. The other difficulty with reconciliation, and this is a quotation that's in the reading from Antje Krog that I gave to you. By the way, this Antje Krog she's written a book that is a work of journalism and analysis, but she is also a poet. It's a beautiful book, and I know I have only given you some parts of the book, but if you are able to, you will not regret reading the whole thing. In any case, one person quoted in the book by Krog is Mahmoud Mamdani, who argues then that the kind of acceptance that is postulated by reconciliation, the acceptance and affirmation and rebuilding of bonds with perpetrators, is laden with moral significance, or Mamdani would probably say immoral significance, that it requires embracing the thing that is opposed. So what I mean to say is that there is this fundamental contradiction at the bottom of the project of reconciliation that is very, very difficult to resolve, of which political actors are very often not conscious, or if they are conscious of it, they are conscious of it in a negative way, and it makes the process particularly difficult.